First of all, happy 4th of July to whoever it concerns, whoever celebrates this holiday. This is always a good day for fireworks and barbecue and some good old liquor. But today is a really dark July the 4th because this bill is a huge tax giveaway to the billionaires. It is a big reduction in food assistance to the needy, healthcare for low income individuals. This is a bill that's going to drastically increase government spending. This budget for ICE is now going to be 400 billion. And on top of it, when you have undocumented workers paying gasoline, sales, city, federal, Social Security, Medicaid taxes, when those people get deported, then this reduces the local tax revenue for cities, for provinces. It reduces the amount of money contributing to Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. So ICE is going to bankrupt America. Billionaires are going to have huge, massive tax breaks at the expense of the working people, because let's not forget about the trade war too. And hopefully you know what a tariff is. So a great graphic from MSNBC: 930 billion cut to Medicaid, 12 million people lose their health care, 150 billion immigration enforcement, 153 billion increase to national defense, because they want to go to war with Iran and fight Netanyahu's wars in the Middle East. We could be spending money on the people, healthcare, infrastructure, education, wages, and housing. Instead, the government would rather be targeting people who work the jobs that Americans are not willing to work. Instead, they would be targeting people contributing to society. They're not going after violent criminals. They're going after anybody that's working. That's why you see all the ICE raids in the Home Depots, in the restaurants, in the car washes. The Republican Party lied. It was never about crime. A funny thing, not based off of anecdotal evidence, but based off of FBI figures, violent crime has actually gone down in the last year, in 2024. So this is all campaign rhetoric. It is all about debrowning America, basically, because now you've got the Proud Boys and the J6ers. They got pardoned. They're Trump's henchmen. They're his recruits to strong arm and militarize ICE. So there you go. I thought these small government Republicans are going to bring down the deficit. The funny thing is they never, ever bring down the deficit. They expanded the government under Bush. They created the Department of Homeland Security. They fought wasteful wars in the Middle East. They pretty much militarized America during Bush's first term. Trump outspent Obama and Biden in his first term. Donald Trump is a big government wannabe authoritarian. This is who he is. 3.3 trillion added to the debt. This doesn't take into account how deporting all these people is going to affect the reduction in local and federal and FICA taxes coming in. Energy bills are going to go up when they end clean energy credits. They want to reduce the amount of sources of energy we can use. Less energy sources, the more expensive it becomes. So this government is giving nothing back to the citizen, and instead they have more money for war and shipping people off overseas that are contributing to American society, working the jobs that we here in America simply are not willing to work. 52 million reduction in Planned Parenthood abortion services goes down for women out there. This is a very, very bad bill. You know how you know the Republican Party knows it's a bad bill? The most draconian measures don't come into effect until after the midterms. The Medicaid cuts don't happen until after the midterms. The work requirements don't happen until after the midterms because it's about holding political power. That's what it's about. That's how they know this bill is going to negatively affect their white rural base. Their own MAGA supporters are not even working. They want their own voters to have work requirements. This is going to piss off their own base. Their own supporters are going to lose their health care. That's exactly why they have this bill coming into effect until after the midterms in an election year 2028. Now, the whole scam of the GOP is going to revolve around their own gullible base, not being aware that the Medicaid cuts are a result of the Republican Party. The Medicaid cuts are going to happen in 2028 while we have a Democratic-controlled House. So what's the Republican Party going to do? They're going to blame it on the Democrats. That's these Democrats in the House that cut your Medicaid. But it was a Republican voted on bill that resulted in that Medicaid. They just didn't want it to happen until the Democrats take back the House, so they could blame it on the Democrats, even though it was a result of a vote that was voted on exclusively by an all-Republican House. So let's grift, baby, grift. The grift continues. We're going to have our gullible voters think it's the Democrats doing this because we're going to have the Medicaid cuts happen while a Democratic House is in control. In other words, after the midterms. That's the con. And now this would all be coming to effect in an election year. And so would the Republican Party be willing to allow the Democrats to have an easy landslide victory? Because everybody is going to be pissed when they lose their health care, when their parents are kicked out of their nursing homes, when rural hospitals are forced to close down, because that's what these Medicaid reductions does. It means hospitals are not able to remain in operation, affecting rural hospitals more than city hospitals. But is the GOP willing to allow Democrats to have such an easy victory? Well, what I think is going to happen is there's going to be massive civil unrest in 2028, affecting seniors, affecting low-income people, affecting kids. I think there's going to be mass protests once these provisions come into effect in 2028. And I think Donald Trump is trying to cause civil unrest, and he's going to use the military to quash any peaceful political protests and dissent. And at that moment in time, he may suspend the Constitution and declare himself king out of public safety. That is a doomsday scenario that I could see happening. But hopefully the military says no to Donald Trump, and the military abides because they pledge an oath to the Constitution, not to the president. I think there's a great quote from Theodore Roosevelt that really speaks about being a patriot. I announce that there must be no criticism of the president, or that we are to stand by the president, right or wrong. It's not only unpatriotic and servile, but is morally treasonable to the American public. Nothing but the truth should be spoken about him or anyone else. But it is even more important to tell the truth, pleasant or unpleasant, about him than about anyone else. Spoken by progressive Republican president Theodore Roosevelt. It's not just because you criticize the president, that doesn't mean you don't love your country. That's basically what Theodore Roosevelt is saying. And many Republicans could actually learn a thing or two from Theodore Roosevelt. But if the plan isn't to make Donald Trump king or to stage a terror attack in America because now Iran and its proxies are pissed off that we attacked their nuclear bases, if the plan is not to manufacture an inside job or manufacture civil unrest to keep Trump in power, then what is the plan? After all, it is Peter Thiel and the big tech libertarian billionaires that handpicked JD Vance. So really, is the plan going to be to move to JD Vance? Elon Musk spoke out about this bill, which increases the deficit. Is he really done with this current administration? This could be political theater on the part of Elon Musk. But you see, JD Vance wrote the foreword to Project 2025. And if the plan is to keep everything somewhat in control with no social unrest, then I think if doomsday scenario doesn't happen, then I think they'll invoke the 25th Amendment. If it really is Thiel and Musk and the libertarian billionaires holding the strings, then they will move on to JD Vance. If it really is big tech running the show and Donald Trump is nothing but a puppet, then that's who they may move on to. They may move on to JD Vance. If simply Donald Trump is they're not going to make him king, but they're going to simply move on to their handpicked puppet, because that's where he started out at. JD Vance started out at Silicon Valley. Peter Thiel bankrolled his Ohio Senate campaign. JD Vance was involved in venture capitalist firms. JD Vance is 100% the big tech puppet. So we don't have an outright king in the White House, but it is JD Vance that was the tie-breaking vote to this bill. So Project 2025 calls for these massive cuts because it is a libertarian. This is libertarian light. Libertarians don't believe in healthcare. I mean, massive libertarianism in the reduction in the social safety net and civil unrest. Naturally, libertarianism would disappear and people would demand more socialism the more they see unbridled capitalism. Why else did we have FDR in the New Deal after, the Gilded Age in America? So what really is this libertarian endgame agenda as far as, keeping political power is concerned? Hopefully Trump will be dead before then. Republicans do hate Donald Trump, but they're still sticking to him because their bases are diluted. Like it doesn't matter how terrible he is. Like they still support him because in their eyes he's making America white again. He's saving America from the browning. Even though Trump is helping the billionaires, they don't care because in their eyes Donald Trump is making America white again. That's really why the Trump code is not going away. It's him against the establishment, like making him out to be a victim or a martyr. It's very weird. It's very creepy. But then, they worship Jesus, who's a martyr and all this. But Donald Trump, ironically, is friends with Epstein. And he uses government to in his favor for his businesses, no different than any other politician. When they lose their Medicaid in 2028, are they going to blame Trump or are they going to blame the Democrats? I think these people are very gullible. They're going to blame the Democrats, even though it was a Republican bill that just didn't take effect until after the midterms. They didn't want all this to happen until after the midterms. That's how they know this bill is garbage. They know if these effects immediately kicked in, they would get slaughtered in the midterms. This bill really is a con job. And you know about the no tips, that kind of thing. Tips are still taxable, but the amount you make from tips, they make it tax deductible. But let's be honest. If you're working overtime, if you're a server in a restaurant, the majority of the people don't itemize their tax deductions. The majority of the people take the standard deduction to begin with. They don't itemize. So it's not really helping you at all reduce your tax income. So the no tax on the tips and the overtime, that's screwing everyday Joe as well. Because most people don't itemize their tax deductions. This bill is a scam. It's a giant scam. You know, he likes to call it big, beautiful bill. What it really is, some people like to call it the big, bad bill, but what it really is in a nutshell, it's the big billionaire bill. We have enough money to create class warfare between white people and brown people simply wanting to make an honest living, simply are working jobs that would never be filled if you just ask everyday America to do it. And tax revenues are going down. The projected debt is not even going to be the actual increase in debt that's going to happen. They are totally not going to take into account the reduction in revenues from Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, city revenue, federal tax revenue. It's going to be much worse than what they say the debt is going to go up by. And you know Donald Trump is a part of this Freemasonic cabal who's working for nobody but billionaires and elitists. 3.3 trillion raised into the debt, 33,000 jobs lost in June, the first net job loss in quite some time. Ruled by Masonry in 33. So those are the two big numbers that we've heard in the media. The debt's going to go up by 3.3 trillion. We lost 33K jobs in the month of June because Donald Trump is part of the Freemasonic cabal and he wants to manufacture an economic crisis so the billionaires can increase their portfolios and they buy these stocks and properties on pennies on the dollar at a fraction of what they would have otherwise paid into them. And then their net market value is going to go up. So this bill is a big giant con. It's a big giant insult that it was signed on the 4th of July. It's a big, it pisses on every single American. If you're working, if you're retired, if you're in a nursing home, it fucks over everybody. The only people that it benefits is the politicians and the billionaires. These are the only people it benefits. It's even worse. They basically the 2017 tax bill made the breadcrumbs tax cuts temporary. So it was if you don't pass the bill, our taxes are going to go up. But now the vast majority of the tax breaks go to the top 1% to begin with. And in some instances, some working people are going to face tax increases. It says so in the Project 2025 document. That's how you know it only serves the wealthy. So it's going to be interesting. Obviously, we know that the Dems are going to win the House. It looks like the GOP may hold on to the Senate after the midterms. People are going to be angry in the election year. The Democrats going to win. If you vote for us, we're going to repeal this bill. But the Republicans trying to hold political power, they're going to try to suspend elections because they already suspended elections in Miami. This has already been done in one city in America. They have postponed the elections until next year in the city of Miami under control of Republicans. So one city in America has already suspended elections. This is an early example. And if they are successful in suspending the elections, don't think for a second they won't be able to try it with the presidential election. But it's going to take a big crisis for that to happen. But is that what big tech libertarian billionaires want? Or are they going to invoke Amendment 25? Donald Trump, you're demented, you're sitting out, you don't. We're going to move on to JD Vance because he's our puppet in the first place. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. We'll see if I don't know what's going to take for Republicans and these politicians who hate Donald Trump, Republicans who dislike Donald Trump. I don't know what it's going to take for them to finally turn their back on Donald Trump. Could he mentally suffer even more cognitive decline like Joe Biden did? That's probably what it's going to take for the 25th Amendment to be invoked, because Trump is 25 in Gematria. It's the 25th Amendment. If he suffers a Joe Biden like Biden did in the debate, then he will probably be gone. But are Republicans gonna let him stay in power that easily? I don't know about that. We'll see what happens. Happy 4th. This bill is terrible. Their end game is to blame it on the Democrats currently in the House when the bill comes into effect, but independents are not durable. It's only the Republican base that may fall for this con. That's what's happening. You know it's bad when they don't have it happen until after the midterms. This is a terrible bill, only serves the billionaires. Instead of we the people, it's we the billionaires. Government's fugazi, it's a joke. It needs replacing badly.